You're standing at the southern gates of Kyoto on a crisp autumn morning in the year 1450. The air smells of burning incense and wet pine needles after last night's rain. Beyond these massive wooden gates lies the heart of samurai Japan, a world of ritual and steel. The capital of the Ashikaga Shogunate stretches before you, a city of wooden temples and gardens. This is Kyoto at the height of the Muromachi period, when warriors became patrons of art. Over 300,000 souls live within these walls, and the surrounding valleys below. Stay with us as we walk through the golden age of the samurai, an era of contradictions. You pass through the gate and the noise hits you immediately, a symphony of daily life. Merchants call out prices for silk and tea, while servants hurry past carrying lacquered boxes. The street is packed earth, still damp from the rain, lined with wooden shops and homes. The smell of grilled fish and miso soup drifts from morning food stalls nearby. On your left, a blacksmith hammers red-hot steel, forging a katana blade for a samurai lord. The rhythmic clang echoes down the street as sparks fly into the morning mist. He's been heating and folding this steel for days, creating the layers that make these swords. On your right, women in layered kimono of silk and cotton bow as they enter a tea shop. The architecture is distinctly Japanese, all dark wood and white plaster with curved tile roofs. Most buildings are single-story, though a few rise to 2 levels with paper screens glowing softly. Buddhist temple roofs peak above the skyline, their bronze tiles catching the morning sun. Everything is built to withstand earthquakes, with flexible joints and deep foundations of stone. You turn east toward the Kamo River, following a procession of Buddhist monks in saffron robes. Their wooden sandals clack against the street as they chant sutras in rhythmic unison. The scent of incense from their temple drifts through the narrow alley ahead. A dog darts between your legs, chasing something only it can see in this crowded street. Emerging at the riverbank, you see fishermen casting nets into the clear water below. Women kneel at the edge washing clothes, their hands red from the cold mountain runoff. Across the river, the eastern mountains rise in layers of green and gold autumn foliage. The Higashiyama Range forms a natural barrier, protecting Kyoto from the winds of the east. The Kamo River is the lifeblood of Kyoto, providing water, food, and a natural boundary. Wooden bridges arch across at intervals, their planks worn smooth by thousands of feet. A samurai on horseback crosses one bridge, his armor gleaming, a katana and wakizashi at his side. His horse's hooves clatter on the wood as peasants bow low and avert their eyes. You follow the river north toward the shogun's district, where power truly resides in Japan. The streets grow wider here, less crowded, more ordered and controlled by warrior clans. Guards in yoroi armor stand at intersections, their spears held vertical, eyes scanning every passerby. To walk these streets without permission is to risk death at the hands of a samurai. The first great estate appears behind high wooden walls topped with ceramic tiles. Through the gate you glimpse a rock garden of raked gravel and carefully placed stones. This is the aesthetic the samurai are creating, a fusion of Zen Buddhism and warrior discipline. The garden represents mountains and rivers, an entire landscape compressed into a courtyard space. A group of young samurai practice swordsmanship in a courtyard visible from the street. Their Bakken wooden swords slice through the air with sharp whistling sounds as they execute forms. Their instructor barks corrections while they sweat despite the autumn chill in the air. These men train for war, but they also study poetry, tea ceremony, and calligraphy. Further north, you reach the Muromachi district where the Ashikaga Shogun himself holds court. The streets here are immaculate, swept clean twice daily by teams of servants. Cherry trees line the avenue, their branches bare now but ready to explode with blossoms. In spring, these streets will be covered in pink petals like snow from the heavens. The shogunal palace complex looms ahead, a sprawling compound of connected buildings and gardens. Guards in full armor stand at every gate, their helmets adorned with the Ashikaga mon. You cannot enter, but you can glimpse the elegant architecture beyond the walls and gates. Tile roofs curve upward at the corners, following Chinese architectural traditions from centuries past. This is where Ashikaga Yoshimasa will soon build his silver pavilion, though that is years away. For now, the The shogun rules from these halls, mediating disputes between daimyo warlords. The fate of Japan is decided in rooms you cannot see, by men you'll never meet. Alliances are forged, betrayals plotted, and the delicate balance of power constantly shifts. Turning west, you head toward the temple district where Buddhism and art intertwine beautifully. The streets narrow again, and the crowds return, pilgrims now instead of merchants and warriors. The air grows thick with incense smoke drifting from dozens of temple gates nearby. Prayer bells ring intermittently, their clear tones cutting through the murmur of chanted sutras. Kinkaku-ji, the Golden Pavilion, rises ahead like a vision from another world entirely. Its upper floors are covered in gold leaf that blazes in the afternoon sunlight. The three-story structure sits on the edge of a mirror-still pond reflecting its perfection. Completed in 1398, this is the architectural triumph of the previous shogun's reign and vision. This is where the previous shogun, Ashikaga Yoshimitsu, cultivated the arts that define this era. Tea ceremony, ikebana, flower arranging, no theater, ink painting, all flourished under his patronage. The samurai are becoming more than warriors. They are becoming aesthetes and scholars of culture. A warrior who cannot compose poetry is considered incomplete, lacking in refinement and education. Around the temple, Zen gardens invite meditation with their carefully raked gravel and stone arrangements. Monks in gray robes tend the gardens with absolute precision and devotion to beauty. Every stone is placed with intention, every branch pruned to achieve natural asymmetry and balance. The gardens teach that perfection comes through simplicity, that less is always more beautiful. You walk south through residential neighborhoods where commoners live in modest wooden houses. Families crowd into single rooms with tatami mat floors and sliding shoji paper screens. Smoke rises from cooking fires as women prepare the evening meal of rice and miso. The smell of cooking dashi broth fills the narrow lanes between these simple dwellings. Children play in the alleys, their laughter cutting through the serious atmosphere of samurai Kyoto. They chase each other with wooden swords, mimicking the warriors they see every day. Even in play, the culture of the sword is being learned and perpetuated naturally. A girl practices her calligraphy on a board, forming characters with careful brushstrokes. Passing a sake brewery, you smell the sweet fermentation of rice wine in wooden barrels. Workers roll massive ceramic jars through the courtyard, their contents sloshing with each movement. Sake is essential to every ceremony, every celebration, every diplomatic meeting in this culture. The brewmaster tastes the latest batch, nodding approval at its clarity and strength. The city is preparing for evening as shadows lengthen across the wooden buildings and streets. Lanterns begin to glow behind paper screens, casting warm light into the gathering dusk. A temple bell rings somewhere to the east, its deep tone rolling across the city. The air cools rapidly as the sun drops toward the western mountains beyond. Street vendors pack up their wares while restaurants begin to fill with samurai and merchants. The sound of shamisen music drifts from a geisha house, its three strings plucked expertly. Laughter echoes from inside, where powerful men drink and forget the burdens of their positions. For a few hours they can pretend they're not planning the next battle or betrayal. You climb a small hill on the western edge of the city to watch the sun set. From here, you can see all of Kyoto spread below, a sea of dark roofs. Smoke from thousands of cooking fires rises in thin columns toward the mountains beyond. The city glows in the fading light, beautiful and fragile, a testament to human creativity. This is Kyoto in 1450, a city where the sword and the tea ceremony coexist, where brutal warlords commission sublime gardens and sponsor delicate arts with equal passion and devotion, where Zen Buddhism shapes the warrior ethos into something refined, disciplined, and deeply aesthetic. Contradictions define this place, violence and beauty inseparable from each other in daily life. The Onin War is just 17 years away, a conflict that will burn much of this. But the people walking these streets tonight don't know what's coming for them in their city. They believe this golden age will last forever, that beauty and power are eternal. They cannot imagine their temples in flames, their gardens destroyed, their way of life shattered. It won't last, but what they create here will endure through the centuries ahead. The tea ceremony, the gardens, the no theater, the fusion of art and warrior spirit. This moment in Kyoto shapes Japanese culture for the next 500 years and beyond. The world will remember this city not for its wars, but for its beauty. Refined. The sun touches the western mountains and the city glows in orange and gold light. Kyoto in the age of the samurai, a city balanced between war and beauty. This is the Japan that will inspire poets, artists, and warriors for generations unborn. Like and subscribe, because the next journey through time will take us somewhere equally extraordinary.